Hi guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Modern Shakti Files. So today we are going to do a deep dive into a little bit about me and the history that I've grown up with and my experience of Kundalini Awakening. So last session we did the session on Maya's experience and what that was like for her. So we just really want to introduce ourselves so that you understand on a kind of personal level what it is that we've experienced. So, Maya?
Exactly. Very exciting to be able to get your story on record as
Mm.
well. Because this is something that we've been talking about quite a bit, that when you're on the journey of Shakti Kundalini, it's so unique, but we're still going to find so many points in common and experiences that's going to be very similar. So I'm really excited to dive into hearing your side of, everything that we have touched on in the previous episode as well, like how all of that unfolded for you. So I was thinking we
Mhm.
can perhaps start by jumping in and talking actually about your upbringing a little bit more, like the background, the cultural and societal perspective that you feel like you've been carrying with you into who you are today. I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure I ask the right questions, because we've been talking about this, that it has a very powerful impact on how the nervous system is being formed. And it also helps us to understand a little bit more about later on why you are and where you are today. So if you want to
Yeah.
maybe begin with that.
Yeah, so I grew up in poverty, so I grew up in like a family system that didn't have much money. I used to know loan sharks by their first name.
Mhm.
I lost a parent really young, so I lost my dad really young. Subsequently, I had lots of things in my childhood where I'd be bullied quite a lot, I'd be taunted a lot, I'd be put down a lot. I really had a very fragmented sense of self. And the way and the outlet that I used growing up was through sports. So I did gymnastics and dancing growing up and had a lot of pressure to perform. So my mum, she was emotionally unavailable, and that's not something that I want to focus on too much, but there wasn't that emotional support growing up. So really I just kind of had to figure things out for myself. And why this is important in relation to the Kundalini Awakening process is up until I was about 29 years old, I didn't even know that I'd experienced trauma before. Like, I remember like I was speaking to a therapist about some of my experiences growing up. So like my dad passing, for example, and she was like, "How do you feel?" I was just like, "Well, he's just dead." Like, like no felt sense of what it would be like to lose a parent because I was very numb because of all of
How old
them
were you when
different
your dad
things.
when your dad passed?
I was 4 years old when my dad passed, so it was
Oh yeah.
very early. And I also grew up in an abusive household, so it was very abusive to my mum as well. And I lived in like a battered wives' home, they'd call it that, like back in the day, for a short period of time. So like grow up in like a lot of chaos. And I just didn't realise because it was norm for me, and because in life it's like you're on this kind of train where you're just moving forward all of the time, like you go 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 go, do more do more. You never actually reflect and have a look back at what happened. And it wasn't until the Kundalini Awakening process started that I was like, oh my god, this was not normal. That experience was not normal. And a little bit like you, I do believe that, that we sign up for these experiences, but it's also to not take away from the human element, because I was in a lot of pain. Like, I was in a lot of emotional and psychological pain because of them experiences. And I was also deeply ashamed of myself. Like, I carried shame around on my back like a backpack. I was deeply ashamed of me, and I wanted to prove why I was a good person to everyone that I'd meet, because
Mm.
deep down I felt ashamed of myself because of things that happened when I was a child. So I had I had a lot to carry. I had a lot to carry and a lot to come to terms with in relation to my experience.
Yeah. And it also, in a way, it kind of engraves this innate low self-worth when you come from an upbringing in that sense. Because that's something I
Yeah,
can really relate to. Like, even until today, it's something that I often work with. I'm like, because it runs so deep, needing to prove
yeah,
yourself and needing to show, like, I can do so much for you. I'm so valuable if you just
yeah.
let me show it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this desire to be chosen. Yeah, to be chosen by the people around us, and then we'll prove our way as to why we need to be chosen. I'm like, I now know I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Like, this is who I am and this is who I be, and you can decide that that's for you, or you could decide that it's not, and you make that choice, and you'll find your rightful place in my life. So yeah, low self-esteem, low self-worth, and just this childlike desire to be chosen, even if the person choosing me, like, wasn't healthy, good, kind, loving.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I certainly feel that. So, what would you say that led you to your Kundalini awakening from that, like from that whole journey?
Yeah. So similar to you, I went through a breakup, and this wasn't I wouldn't say it was a big breakup. It was like we had different priorities in life, but I believe that that was the kickstart of all of the stuff coming to the surface. So not long after we broke up, I went to Portugal for a traveling trip. And I remember I was sat on the beach and I was wailing literally like a baby. And I believe it was that, like, deep abandonment wound. That was the moment where that was coming to the surface. And then what started happening week on week for years, I had this new somatic experience of trauma coming to the surface. Big expressions of energy moving through my body, and then this realization of, oh my God, this happened. Like, and then I would subsequently act on that information. So, for
Yeah.
example, like when I realized the extent to which my mum trapped me in certain circumstances, when it came to the surface, I would be like, I was a child. Like, I didn't know what I was doing and you blamed me. So I'd like have these big expressions, these big awareness, and then I would actually confront the situation as well. And that happened week on week for like 2 years. I was like, I
Did your
can't
mom
take it
get weekly
anymore of
phone
this.
calls of like, okay?
Yes and no. So there was bullying. So I was bullied a lot. So I actually confronted the people that bullied me.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, there were I put them all in a group chat. It was real intense. Oh my God. Honestly, like, that's how big these expressions of energy were. I was furious. I remember being sat at work and I was like, no, this is not okay. And I kicked right off. And it was, yeah, it didn't feel good at the time. It was it shattered my reality. Do you know what I mean? Like, having this awareness really shattered my reality, because I'd had like a lot of surgeries growing up to my face. And it was because I had a very, very distorted self-image. Um, yeah, I can't remember what they were. Breakup. Yeah, so it was the breakup, and then subsequently all of them things that happened after, and it was big. I remember at one stage I was crying to my mum, and I was like, "Mum, please tell me that I'm going to be okay," because all of these big emotional and physical expressions were like happening, and it was scary. It was really scary
Yeah.
for me to not have a sense of stability,
Yeah.
because you imagine I was in this house with this woman who I then realized had been harming me. And then I was like, well, where do I go? Like, I've got no friends. Like, this woman harms me. Like, there was no safe place. And even at that moment in time, being in my body wasn't safe for me. So
Yeah.
it really felt like it was intense. Yeah.
So you kind of remember these things because you started to have these spontaneous energy surges, right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand, you kind of put it down to that was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening that got
Mm,
triggered perhaps because of the trauma or like the very heartbreaking experience that you were going through. That
Yeah,
energy, I mean, you can explain it in your own ways, but I'm quite
yeah,
curious then to understand where and how did you understand that that's actually what was happening, and this is why you are having
yeah,
these sudden experiences of,
yeah.
yeah,
That's such a good
everything.
question. And first of all, I'd say that it was time. It was time for me to become aware of all of them different things. So, like, the nervous system was like, no, it's time. So then that's why it started to energetically bring all of them things up. So I think the moment when I knew it was a Kundalini awakening, I was experiencing lots of physical symptoms in the body. So I started to have full body orgasms. I would have big sensations of energy and I didn't know what to do about it. And I remember like Googling all of the different things that happened to me. And it was like, oh, you're going through like a Kundalini awakening. And I started to search for like people online, like practitioners online. And I just became very intrigued by it. It was almost like it was like I was getting drawn to this.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it had like a one-to-one session with a really experienced practitioner, and my body started to move and do all of the things. But then I shortly realized that I didn't need her for that to happen. That
yeah.
my body would, if I give my body the space, it would self-activate. So then that's what I'd just do. I'd just allow this energy to move through me and to activate and to purify my vessel to try and make the process go as easeful
Mm.
as it possibly could.
Yeah. And that's a very important point, actually, that you touched upon. The importance of creating these spaces for ourselves where we do drop in and where we do self activate to be able to hold this energy within ourselves in a safe space so it doesn't become something that eventually just kind of clogs up and bursts out
Yeah,
uncontrollably, right? Because that's,
yeah,
I think that's one of the key elements, because you've been talking so much about how powerful and earth shaking sometimes these experiences could be. And I also met clients of mine who come to me and said, well, I don't really know what to do with this energy. And I often said, yes, create space where you can let the energy move. So how was that experience for you to be able to learn how to manage the intensity?
yeah. Um, I, in my experience, it was like both ends of the spectrum. So there'd be like the bliss, the connection, the oneness, the coming home. Like that was so, so beautiful. But then on the other end of the spectrum is the density, it's the pain. Being able to hold space for both is an art, especially when the pain can feel so intense, so powerful. And being with that in your body and still feeling safe in your body, it's an art, and holding space for it and holding compassion and love and all of them different things. So I would say now, most of the time, I am very much able to be in a blissful state. So I'm able to self-act, circulate energy through my body and be in a very, very beautiful, orgasmic, blissful state, which is beautiful. Now and again, I'll have them moments of density and then moments of pain. And there's different techniques and tools and stuff that I use to support myself. And maybe another podcast episode, we can go deeper into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like you can feel yourself at any given moment in time. Like you can feel yourself, you can feel your energy circulating, and it's a really powerful place to be.
Yeah. And what would you say, like, what was the biggest challenges that it kind of brought to the surface, that whole process, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah. So biggest challenges is being a person going through that in a Western world. So I remember I was still employed for a period of time before I quit my job. And I'd go to work and I'd speak about some of my experiences, and people would go, "Are you sure you're not making it up, Leanne? Are you sure like it's just not all in your head?" And then when you are also doubting your experience because this is so freaking mystical and you've never experienced it before, it's almost gaslighting.
Yeah.
And that was very, very painful to feel like I wasn't believed in my experience. Then another couple of experiences were, obviously I was very vulnerable when it first started happening. And this person reached out to me and she was just like, oh, like, do you fancy meeting for a cup of tea? A little bit concerned, blah, 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 blah. And she started telling me at the time that somebody she knew went through it and ended up in a mental hospital, and that she'd heard it was demonic and all of these different things. So here's me trying to integrate my experience,
Yeah.
and she's saying all of these different things when I'm like trying to come to terms with something myself. And that was so intense. It was painful. It was painful to have to go through that internal process and that journey, because I went home on that same night and I was like, oh my God, like, am I demonic? Like, what is going on here? Like, oh my God, like, if like that ends up me going to that hospital. And what people don't realize when they do this is they're implanting in your mind these ideas, which can then create them if you allow yourself to
Exactly.
ruminate on them. Like, it's very, very unhelpful for somebody who's trying to create sovereignty in their field, in their experience. That was extremely, extremely unhelpful. And then there was people who had also had these experiences but shut it down because they couldn't handle the external conflict. So then I was like, I'd open myself up to meet these people and they just tell me some not very nice stories of their own about like when they went through it, their family all told them that there was something wrong with them and then forced them to go to a hospital. So like really, really traumatizing them. And I just think that for somebody going through these experiences in a Western world, you are surrounded by people who do not understand what it is that you're going through. They don't understand and they don't get it, and they can make the process so much worse just by how they're engaging with you, instead of like just saying like, I'm going to be here for you, everything's going to be okay, you're going to get through this. It's like, are you sure this is happening to you? And it was extremely painful for me. Equally, I feel like that was an initiation. Feel like, you know, as painful as it was at the time, there had to be something within me that I reached for that was able to go, no, like, I'm not listening to that. I'm going to create this inner strength and inner safety. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I think that people who are brave enough to not listen to the outside world and to follow their own North Star is one of the most powerful things that you can do in this experience.
Yeah.
The way in which I overcome it was a lot of self-validation, a lot of research, working with people that can help you to understand your experience. So I've had like a therapist for a number of years now who was like a Buddhist monk, and he went through the Kundalini Awakening process like 20 years ago. So when I have something I'm integrating that I'm not sure, we'll jump on a call and he'll support and guide me with that process. And that was so fundamental. So fundamental to me overcoming things. And I think finally, grounding. And this is something that's super, super important, is that when all of this stuff happens, everything in your reality starts to shift. It starts to change. All delusions start to crumble. Everything is completely different. Completely different. And we leave like emotional anchors in different aspects of life, in our job, in people, places, things. And when you've got no more anchors, you're like, whoa, I'm just this energy, just like, you know, like floating around. You've not got these anchors anywhere. The only thing that you can anchor in is like yourself. And it's reevaluating who you are. Like looking at things like, what do I actually value? Not what people outside of me say I should value or society says. Like, what really turns me on? What really lights me up? What's really, really important to me? And knowing that and letting them kind of things, I call it like being your internal anchor, like knowing what you stand for, knowing what you value, knowing the kind of results that you want in the world as well, getting real clear on that cognitively, because your external reality is going to be like, woo, 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 woo. And the only thing you can anchor into is you and who you actually are.
Yeah.
So those are the things that really help me. And like, you know, people used to say to me all the time, surrender, Leanne, surrender. And I'd be like, what the fuck does surrender mean? What do you mean? And it was like, it was really painful to hear that and be like, I don't, okay, let's go lie down, surrender. But like the way that I believe that it should be is acceptance of where you're at, acceptance of reality and how it is. And that doesn't mean that you don't do anything neither. It just means that you accept what is going on with your reality without resistance. So you
Yeah.
don't make it bad, you don't make it wrong, you accept it. And then you go, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. How do I move the needle forward in the direction that I actually choose to go? And if
Yeah.
that means that when you're in the thick of it, like you do one thing a day, that's what you need to do. Do you know what I mean? If that's what your body needs, that's what your being needs. Yeah, that's what I did.
So what would you say? How does this, so what is it that it actually, I was just looking at the questions that I had. I kind of want to touch on something. So what would you say, someone who is listening to this now, I would like, okay, they might have this experience happening to them spontaneously, or alternatively, they feel very curious about working with this energy. What is the real life benefit or impact and change that
Yeah.
you would want to care about it?
Yeah. So I would say that one of the benefits, I can hear myself echoing a little bit. One of the benefits is being able to acknowledge the difference between dysfunction and health. And what I mean when I say that is prior to going through this experience, like I had a very fragmented sense of self. I was taking drugs all of the time, getting pissed all of the time. And you start to realize like that's not normal. Like when your sensitivity starts to increase, when you start to process trauma, you start to have a better understanding of what health and looks like in your life and want to have that for yourself because you're a divine being. And
Exactly.
your capacity to enjoy life and to be with life completely changes. So the depth to which I experience is so important. Like I used to be so numb in my body. And, you know, like when I eat food, it's like my mouth is having like an orgasm. Like everything is just so big and expansive. And you
Yeah.
realize like actually the only thing standing in the way between you and the life that you desire is your beliefs that keep you believing that you can't have that. And
100%.
that doesn't mean that there is an inner work to go through in order to actualize all of them things, but you really understand the nature of who you are on a
Yeah.
cosmic and energetic level. And so I would say that anyone who experiences this, your life will not be the same. After working with Kundalini energy, your life will not be the same. You will be living a different life with more capacity for joy, pleasure, bliss, abundance. And as I said, that doesn't mean it doesn't come with challenge. There's obstacles that we navigate and challenges that we navigate. But to know yourself in this life
Mm.
it's just the most beautiful experience to feel so deeply at home in your body. I was like dancing this morning and I was just like I'm a human and
I
being
get
in
to
this.
be here.
Yeah. And you're not this relentless machine that has to plug into the matrix and do all of these jobs and all of these different things. And I would say, like, there's also, I don't know what the right word would be, but do your own research, do your own understanding of what this energy is, and ensure that you're using the right practitioners and go in with a what I can see often in people is they love a spiritual high. Like they love a spiritual high, and it's like more energy, more energy, more energy, more energy without really integrating it. And I just say to clients, like, if you're coming to work with me because you just want to have a nice time in the field and then not do anything with your learnings, with what you're integrating, then don't work with me, because you can experience all of these, like, oneness, bliss, ecstasy, all of these different things. But if you're coming back into your day life and you're being an absolute dick, then
Yeah.
no, like, what are you doing to anchor that light into the world to make the world a better place? So
And
this is like, yeah, at some stage along the path, you've got to go like, I've got enough understanding, like I've done enough energy work, I've done this, I've done that. How am I going to serve? How am I going to serve this beautiful planet that we live in? Give back and steward my time and energy to make the world a better place.
and it's kind of like you said, it starts with you. Like it starts with the remembrance first, because that's
Mm,
such a powerful, like, this is kind of what I love to see in my clients as well. Like the moment of remembering that cosmic nature,
oh,
that organic
yeah,
intelligence within them, is like being able to witness it is magic. And then, like you start from there, you see this internal journey that we all go through in our unique ways. And a very powerful and, again, common dominator is that eventually all the numbing outlets somehow naturally start to fall away. So it's nothing that you have to force or push anymore. Like I used to smoke, I used to vape, like you wouldn't see me 5 minutes without puffing on something.
yeah,
Drink, would try the drugs, every weekend something, coming home 6 in the morning, and all of that just naturally starts to fall away. And then
yeah,
eventually that journey of like, okay, self realization will then lead into that, okay, so now that I found me and I fully inhabit this incredible vessel and body, then how do I channel that energy into the world? Like, what do
yeah,
I bring to create and to support and act like the light that I embody?
yeah.
Which
I love it.
also leads me to the next question. So, how do you act like the light, and how can people work with you? What is it that you're
Yeah.
doing currently? If you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So prior to quitting my job, I had an 11-year corporate career. So I started off very corporate style. So I was like, right, I'm going to go into corporate business and I'm going to bring the light. I'm going to teach them this and I'm going to do that. And I created my own model called the Corporate Mindset Makeover that I'm going to put into a book. So that's going to be one thing out into the world that I'm bringing the light that way.
Nice.
And I spent over a year working with different clients doing Kundalini energy sessions, Kundalini energy work. And I decided to have a mixture between, the coaching side of things. So kind of like the corporate executive coaching and Kundalini energy. So I've created my own model called Thrive, which is a mixture of somatic Kundalini energy work, somatic movement, and also the coaching side. Because to me, I think they just marry hand in hand. I think that mindset work without embodiment work is just being completely dissociated from your body. And then body work without having the mind right, the ego, we still need to have an ego to play in the world. So that's like a 6-month container. I work with people on a one-to-one basis as well, using both the somatic movement and coaching. And I'm about to start hosting a couple of retreat style things, which is just like a day style retreat for women where we really just bring them back into their body and like reminding themselves that they are this juicy, juicy divine being, and they get to experience that. So they're the different
Um,
offerings that I have at the moment. And there is like free things that I have available on my page. So if you're going for a Kundalini Awakening and you want a bit of a survival guide, there's like a 1-hour workshop that is very grounding, that I would invite you, if you're having like a difficult one, I would definitely invite you to have a look at that. And then I've got like a free activation on becoming a good receiver, because I think we're in this patriarchal environment, especially for women. It's like, no, I don't need no help. I'm an independent bad bitch. And then we push away like attempts at support. So I have those resources free as well.
Amazing, beautiful. And where can people find you?
That's a great question. So if you have a look on this YouTube, in the comments, I will put a link to both my website and I will put a link to my Instagram page as well. So you can contact me directly. And also, if you have any questions about this podcast, please put in the comments, because we will answer any questions that you've got as well. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, that's it.
Exactly. And as always, comment any other questions that might be popping up as you listen to this. Like, you hear more and more information, then new questions always reveal themselves. So let us know what is it that you want us
Yeah.
to speak about next time, and dive deeper with them. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Is there anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
No, but just welcome to the journey, guys. No turning back from here.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. See
Bye,
you
guys.
soon. Bye.